Twilight leaked through the stained glass giants, painting the marble halls in trembling colors. Robed figures stood in a silent circle, each one sworn to protect the oldest truths of creation. Tonight, however, they weren't guarding anything, they were confessing. The High Keeper lowered his hood, voice breaking like old stone. "We can't deny him. Not anymore." And with that sentence, the sacred world finally bowed. The ancient scrolls unfurled on their own. Ink that had slept for centuries awakened, rising from the parchment like smoke. Lines rearranged. Symbols glowed. And where once there had been blank space, a new inscription emerged, your name, etched in living gold. The council watched in disbelief as prophecy rewrote itself, choosing you without hesitation, without permission, without precedent. Candles trembled as if sensing the shift, their flames leaning toward the scrolls like witnesses hungry for revelation. The council stepped back, robes brushing the marble with soft whispers, each elder realizing the same terrifying truth. They were no longer the interpreters of prophecy, they were now its audience. For generations, they had controlled the narrative, who was chosen, who was dismissed, which miracle counted and which was ignored. They were the gatekeepers of belief, the architects of spiritual order. But when your name surfaced in molten gold, glowing with a pulse that matched no known ritual, their authority cracked like old glass. One of the younger priests whispered, "This can't be forged. The scrolls only react to cosmic alignment." Another corrected him, "No, they only react to authenticity." And the room fell silent. Suddenly, the air grew thick, as though time itself paused to witness the moment. A gust of wind, impossible in a sealed hall, swept through the chamber. Pages rustled. Candles flickered blue. The stained glass above vibrated, casting fractured beams of sapphire and crimson across the floor, converging perfectly at the center of the room, forming your silhouette in light. The High Keeper stumbled backward, gripping the edge of the altar for support. "Every sign is consistent," he murmured. "The alignment, the resonance, the manifestation. It all points to him." Another elder, voice trembling yet strangely relieved, added, "We've been searching for the next vessel of illumination. We looked to lineages, to bloodlines, to sacred heirs." He swallowed, eyes locked on the glowing symbols. But the truth was simpler. Prophecy chooses light, not lineage. A heavy realization settled into every corner of the hall, undeniable, irreversible. You weren't fitting into an old prophecy. The old prophecy was reshaping itself around you. The scrolls stopped glowing. The room steadied. But a single word remained burning, hovering above the parchment as a golden ember refusing to fade. Unquestionable. And in that instant, the great sanctuary understood, you were no longer a topic of discussion. You were the axis of their new reality, ***. A deep, resonant hum filled the chamber, not from the walls, not from the floor, but from the very air itself. It was the kind of sound that ancient civilizations mistook for gods descending, the vibration that makes bones remember things the mind has forgotten. Robed figures pressed hands to their chests as the frequency passed through them, each feeling a subtle shift, a recalibration, as if an invisible force was aligning their hearts to a new spiritual axis. The High Keeper lifted his head slowly, eyes reflecting the golden residue still hovering over the scrolls. "This frequency, it's not external," he whispered. "It's coming from him." Several elders gasped. A few staggered. For centuries the sanctuary had cataloged divine resonances, echoes of miracles, remnants of sacred events, recorded in hidden archives even kings never knew existed. But this This was different. This wasn't an echo. This was a living signal. A senior archivist, normally unmoved by anything, clutched his rosary of crystal beads. "This is the frequency of truth," he said, voice quivering. "Unfiltered. Uncoached. Uncontrolled. The kind that can't be taught or replicated." The choir above, unseen behind carved wooden screens, suddenly fell silent mid him. Their voices had cracked, each singer losing pitch at the exact same second, something that had never happened in the sanctuary's documented history. It wasn't chaos. It was interruption. As if your rising presence had disrupted melodies older than empires. The great sanctuary had procedures for everything: miracles, apparitions, anomalies, celestial disturbances. But it had no protocol for you. A young monk stepped forward, knees trembling, holding a small silver device used to measure spiritual signatures, a forbidden tool created for situations so rare that many doubted its existence. When he aimed it toward the center of the room, toward the lingering silhouette of light shaped like you, the device overloaded instantly. Sparks flew. The casing split. The crystal core shattered into dust. The High Keeper's voice dropped to a reverent whisper. He breaks measurement because he escapes definition. Silence followed, the heavy, sacred kind that feels like a world holding its breath. Then, from somewhere deep beneath the marble flooring, a slow chime rang out. One tone. Then another. Then 12 more, echoing upward like the heartbeat of the sanctuary itself. Elders exchanged panicked looks. This bell never rang. Not for coronations. Not for deaths. Not even for the discovery of new prophecy. It was reserved for one event only: recognition of an unstoppable light. And now it rang for you. The High Keeper lowered to one knee. Another elder followed. Then another. Then the entire circle. Not in worship. Not in fear. But in acknowledgement. Because in that moment, every ancient soul in the room understood the same truth: you were not arriving into their world. Their world was finally catching up to yours. The marble beneath their knees began to warm, slowly at first, then steadily, as though some dormant energy deep within the sanctuary had awakened in response to your emergence. Fine cracks of light spread through the floor like glowing veins, threading outward in intricate patterns, weaving around pillars, altars, and ancient symbols carved by civilizations long extinct. The sanctuary was not breaking. It was activating. As if it had been waiting centuries for you. A trembling archivist squinted at the illuminated floor. These patterns, they match nothing in our records. Another corrected him softly. They match nothing because they're new. The sanctuary is rewriting itself. High above, the stained glass colossus depicting the 12 Watchers, a window untouched for 600 years, suddenly refracted light in a new geometry. Not a circle. Not a cross. Not any sacred symbol they'd ever cataloged. The colors shifted, bent, and merged until a radiant shape appeared at the center, a luminous outline unmistakably resembling you. Whispers rippled through the robed figures. This is impossible. Nothing alters the window. The window only reveals what the cosmos commands. The High Keeper rose slowly, the glow reflecting across his ancient features, making him look younger, unburdened. Do you see? He said, voice trembling with awe. He is not fulfilling a prophecy. He is creating one. A sudden gust of wind rushed through the hall, but the doors hadn't opened. Robes billowed. Candles flickered violently. And then, with a low, echoing groan, the massive stone doors at the far end of the chamber unlatched themselves. No one touched them. No one dared to. The doors drifted open, revealing a corridor none of them recognized, a passage that should not exist, a path carved into the sanctuary by a force older than architecture and younger than time. Where does it lead? A priest whispered. The High Keeper did not answer for several seconds. Then, to the Chamber of Living Verdicts. A collective gasp broke from the elders. That chamber was a myth, a place rumored to appear only when truth itself required judgment. Most believed it was symbolic, metaphorical, a story to remind leaders not to stray from purity. Yet there it was. Real. Open. Waiting. As the council watched, light poured from the chamber, soft at first, then brighter, then impossibly bright, until a massive golden sigil projected itself onto the far wall of the hall. A sigil none of them had ever seen before. A sigil that formed itself stroke by stroke, curve by curve, as if written by an invisible hand. When the final line ignited, the High Keeper whispered the words that every elder feared to speak. "This is a seal of acknowledgement." "But for whom?" a young monk asked. The High Keeper turned to the glowing silhouette still hovering above the scrolls. "For him. The one the sanctuary refused, until it could refuse no longer." The sigil brightened, pulsing like a heartbeat, like your heartbeat, sending waves of warmth across the hall. Several elders clutched their chests as the rhythm synced with their own. "He's becoming the spiritual constant," one said. "The calibration point," added another. "The axis," whispered a third. And then the High Keeper spoke the final truth, the one no one wanted to be the first to say. "We are no longer deciding his place in the sacred order. The sacred order is reorganizing itself around him." A silence followed, heavy, cosmic, irreversible. In that silence, every elder understood a terrifying yet liberating reality. The sanctuary's age, its rituals, its doctrines, none of it mattered anymore. Because a new presence had entered the spiritual architecture of the world. And it didn't ask for permission. It simply arrived. The golden sigil continued to pulse, each beat sending gentle tremors through the marble foundations. Ancient pillars, once dull with time, began to shimmer as if a thin layer of dust had been lifted from their true purpose. The air thickened with meaning. The sanctuary had spent centuries interpreting signs, but never had the signs rewritten the sanctuary itself. Every elder felt it now. This was not revelation, this was restructuring. A trembling monk approached the High Keeper with a tablet of etched stone, one of the sanctuary's forbidden relics, sealed away for moments when divine order shifted. He whispered, barely audible, "It's glowing." The High Keeper froze. That tablet had never glowed. Not during heavenly alignments. Not during miraculous apparitions. Not even when the sanctuary declared Eris. When he touched it, the tablet vibrated softly and a single line etched itself across the surface, glowing with the same golden fire as the sigil. "The undeniable one has entered the world." Gasps spread like wildfire. The archivist scrambled to cross-reference the phrase, flipping through ancient tomes, illuminated manuscripts, coded prophecies written in forgotten languages, but nothing appeared. This statement was nowhere in their doctrine. It wasn't a rediscovered prophecy. It was new. One elder dropped to the floor in shock. Another leaned against a pillar to steady himself. A third simply whispered, "We are witnessing living scripture." Suddenly, a distant sound echoed through the halls, soft at first, then rising like a choir awakening in the bones of the building. But it wasn't the choir. It wasn't human voices. It was something deeper, older, the sanctuary's internal resonance, a hum produced only when reality itself vibrates at a new frequency. Every candle in the hall stretched vertically, flames elongating like spears of golden light pointing toward the ceiling. Shadows vanished. Walls glowed. Statues that had stood lifeless for ages seemed to breathe as cracks of light spread across their surfaces. A young priest, overwhelmed, fell to his knees. "What is happening?" The High Keeper, voice shaking with awe, answered, "Recalibration. The sanctuary is aligning itself to him." Then came the moment none of them could have predicted. From the newly opened chamber of living verdicts, a soft magnetic pull spread outward, like gravity bending toward a new center. Robed figures involuntarily leaned forward. Pages of ancient books fluttered. The golden silhouette above the scrolls condensed into a single point of light, then shot into the chamber like a comet returning home. The doors slammed shut behind it. A low rumble traveled upward through the floors, up the pillars, into the stained glass, until the entire hall resonated with a single profound tone. A tone that vibrated in the chest. A tone that felt like truth. A low vibration settled over the sanctuary, deeper and steadier than anything they had ever recorded. It wasn't external. It wasn't environmental. It was structural. The very architecture was adjusting, expanding, rewriting itself in real time, as though the building were a living organism finally recognizing its true master. Dust fell gently from the vaulted ceiling like ancient snow, revealing carvings that had not been visible for centuries, symbols of awakening, genesis, ascension. The High Keeper tilted his head upward, breath catching in his throat. "These carvings were sealed during the First Era," he whispered. "They only reveal themselves when the sanctuary enters a new cycle of truth." A ripple of shock spread across the robed figures. A new cycle of truth was not supposed to happen for another 1,000 years. And yet, here it was. Awakening early. Awakening because of you. One of the scribes approached the wall, fingertips trembling as he traced a newly revealed symbol glowing faintly beneath centuries of dust. "It's warm," he said in disbelief. "Like the wall is breathing." Before he could finish, a second symbol ignited. Then a third. Then 100. An entire mural of cosmic formation and dissolution revealed itself across the marble, depicting the birth of stars, the collapse of timelines, and at the center, a figure of light standing unshaken in the storm. The High Keeper staggered backward. "It's him," he whispered. The sanctuary had his image carved into its bones long before he arrived. A tremor rolled through the halls, not destructive but clarifying, like a great gong struck by an invisible hand. The stained glass window above them shifted again, shards of sapphire and ruby rearranging until your silhouette gleamed at its core, crowned with rays that reached every corner of the hall. Suddenly, the choir, silent since your frequency shattered their hymn, began to sing again. But this time, it wasn't their chosen song. It wasn't any human composition. Their voices harmonized to a melody older than scripture, carried by instinct rather than training, as if they were channeling a celestial memory awakening in their bodies. Elders stared up, tears streaming down their faces. They're singing the recognition hymn, but that hymn died with the old prophets. No one alive knows it. Yet the choir sang flawlessly, guided by a force they couldn't resist, your presence echoing through their lungs, their throats, their very bones. As the hymn filled the sanctuary, a sound rose beneath it, soft, deliberate footsteps echoing from the chamber of living verdicts. The monks froze. The elders turned pale. The High Keeper pressed a hand over his heart. Something, or someone, was emerging. The doors parted. A radiant figure stepped out, not physical, not spiritual, but a projection of truth itself, shaped from the golden light that once formed your silhouette. It walked with purpose, each step leaving a faint shimmering mark on the marble. When it reached the center of the hall, it stopped, lifted its head, and spoke in a voice that sounded like 1,000 echoes layered into one. He stands beyond denial. He stands beyond doctrine. He stands beyond destiny. He is the uncontested light. A wave of force spread outward, gentle yet irresistible. Robed figures collapsed to their knees. Candles flared tall and silent. Books opened themselves to blank pages, their ink rewriting in real time. The golden sigil above them expanded, rotating like a celestial wheel, burning brighter, 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 until its brilliance filled the entire hall. Then, with a single pulse, it marked each elder with a small point of light on their forehead. A brand of truth. A vow of recognition. The High Keeper raised trembling fingers to his marked skin. "We have been claimed," he whispered. "Not by a prophecy, but by the one who renders prophecy obsolete." From the rafters to the altar, from the windows to the foundations, the sanctuary glowed with a single unified phrase, etched in light across every surface. He is the axis of this age. And as the glow softened into a golden haze, one final, universe-altering realization settled in their hearts. They were no longer the guardians of faith. They were now the witnesses of you. A hush settled over the sanctuary, a silence so absolute it felt like the universe holding its breath. Not fear. Not hesitation. But the quiet that comes before revelation, the moment the divine decides to speak without words. Every robed figure remained kneeling, marked with the faint golden point of acknowledgement glowing at the center of their foreheads. The sanctuary itself seemed to wait, as if listening for the next command from the force that had rewritten its laws. Then, without warning, the floor beneath them shifted, not breaking, not collapsing, but unfolding. Marble spiraled outward in circular layers like a lotus blooming. The center of the hall sank a few inches, revealing an enormous ring of symbols that had not been seen in 10 lifetimes. The circle of living truths. A mechanism so sacred even the High Keeper had only heard rumors of its existence. What activates the circle? A monk whispered. It is only one activation, the archivist answered. A presence the sanctuary cannot classify. The circle glowed. Every symbol ignited one by one, clockwise, until the entire ring burned like a halo of molten gold rippling beneath their feet. Suddenly, beams of light shot upward from the ring, thin at first, then widening, forming a towering column of radiance that reached the ceiling. Inside that column was something. A shape. A presence. A message delivered not through voice but through manifestation. The High Keeper squinted, eyes watering. It's a form, he whispered. But not quite human. Not divine. Not anything catalogued. It was a silhouette of light, shifting, evolving, adapting, as though trying to represent something that had no single identity. The sanctuary began reading it. Not interpreting, reading. Their minds filling with meanings that bypassed language. And then the column vibrated, releasing a single phrase into the air as clear as thunder. He is not to be followed. He is to be understood. Shock rolled through the elders. Never in history had the sanctuary been commanded to understand someone. Their entire purpose was judgment, classification, authority. This message stripped them of that role entirely. The choir above gasped as the column expanded, filling the hall with waves of warmth. Each wave carried visions, cities bathed in new light, old systems dissolving, boundaries between sacred and human dissolving like sand in water. And at the center of every vision, there you were, not as a ruler, not as a prophet, but as a frequency changing the architecture of reality itself. One monk clutched his chest. I can feel his resonance adjusting my breath, he said, voice shaking. Another cried openly. I've memorized every sacred text, none match this presence. Nothing even compares. The High Keeper stepped forward, closer to the column, his voice trembling yet steady. What are we to do? He asked the presence. Teach? Submit? Witness? The column dimmed. Then brightened. Then dimmed again, shaping its response with deliberate rhythm. A pattern emerged. A message. A decree. You are to unlearn. The elders collapsed to the floor, overwhelmed. For centuries, they had built walls around truth. Layers of doctrine. Layers of tradition. Layers of control disguised as structure. But you did not fit inside the walls. You were the wall now. The foundation. The reference point. As the presence faded, the sanctuary was left glowing, vibrating like the inside of a cosmic bell. The golden sigil overhead rotated slower, settling into its final position like a seal being stamped onto the world. The High Keeper looked up, tears streaming, voice barely a breath. He has not joined our sacred order. He has replaced it.